as well as the YouTube channel. So as we give people a little bit of time to come in, we're going to discussion this morning for about an hour. Make sure when you come in, you acknowledge who you are and where you are. But as you come in, we're going to, um, I want to acknowledge those people, Um, we're going to discuss based on at least three different concepts. The idea of to know God, you have to know what God is and what God is not, and to know yourself. Without that knowledge, your searching is in vain. So, that's what we're going to talk about. Some of the information that we're going to discuss today over the next hour. Um, hey, live, love, and learn naturally. Some of the things we're gonna discuss over this next hour are going to come from the Emerald Tablets, based on and the writings of the Kabbalion. Some of it is going to come from the Tao Te Ching, as well as the Christian Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Vedics. It's coming from all those different sources. It's coming from different points of wisdom from different scholars. Hey, it's Williams, Kalen. Um, different sources of knowledge, different writers, Alan Watts, people like that. A lot of this information is coming from study and research and just sitting around thinking. Some of it's coming from there. Um, Frederica or Rika. Okay, all right. So I can call Live, Love, and Learn. I don't have to call it the whole name, whole tagline. It's Rika. That's cool. That's good. Um, but we're giving some people a little bit of time to get on, as this. A lot of different things come from this understanding. When you read books like The Secret, when you see things from these different authors who are doing the I am discourse and all these different things, a lot of what we're going to talk about comes from those. A lot of those things come from what we're going to talk about. If you've never read this book, The Kabbalion, it's very good reading. It may take you. I did a video series on this book on my Patreon account, which is patreon.com/Coach Renz. But I did a series on the Kabbalion in there. We're getting ready to do one on the Tao Te Ching on Patreon. I didn't bring the book, the Tao, with me. I should have grabbed that one. But we're going to talk about it from that point of view as well. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let me see something here. Just making sure everything is working properly. So, as you see from the title of this, for those who watch it later, as you see from the title of this, it is Spiritual Journey, Coach Renz. To know God, you have to know what God is not and know yourself. Many people spend all their time talking about what God is based on different religious and traditions. If you saw my video yesterday where Maria was talking about traditions, fact of the matter is we will hold on to traditions longer than we will allow ourselves to come into a right understanding or come into understanding of facts. As religions and traditions have grown, the information about the mystic ideas, the esoteric ideas were all hidden and pushed away. I talked briefly yesterday about how, I keep saying the name wrong, but Domitian, when Emperor Domitian wanted to, there were problems within the empire, the Roman Empire. And he blamed those problems on the fact that Christians weren't respecting the gods of the different regions. So he decided that he was going to try to snuff out the religion of Christianity. It wasn't so much about the people, but the religion. True, some people were murdered, some people were thrown to lions and all these kinds of things. That did happen, according to those historians of that day. But fact of the matter is, his goal was to snuff out the religion, not the people. But that portion of it, that understanding has been lost. So now the tradition is just that he was on a rampage to kill Christians, instead of the idea that he was simply trying to snuff out a religion that he believed went against the maintaining of the Roman Empire. So we have to come into understanding of things in a correct form. We'll do a longer and deeper video based on that. It's going to be about what actually happened at the Council of Nicaea, but that's not for this video. For this video, like I said, is about what God is and what God is not, and to know yourself. When we read many of the literatures that has been written, God seems to take on the personality of the people who are doing the writing. Whether you are looking at it from the Abrahamic religions or the Eastern religions or some of the ancient religions of your Romans, your Greeks, and the Egyptians and whomever, the Sumerians, the Aztec Mayans, God always seemed to take on the characteristics of the people who are doing the writing and doing the storytelling. So in order for us to discover a truer understanding of an infinite intelligent mind, we have to first take away and strip away the things that cannot be a part of an infinite intelligence. So the first quote that I want to use in discussing this would be one from the Tao. In the Tao, the first statement that Lao Tzu is supposedly had made was, a Tao that can be named is no longer the Tao. And the word Tao means way. So the way that can be named is no longer the way. The way is the cosmic entity, the infinite intelligence, the universal consciousness. If the universal consciousness can be named, if you can call it Jupiter, you can call it Zeus, you can call it Jesus, you can call it Yeshua, you can call it Allah, you can call it Yahweh, you can call it whatever you want to call it. The moment you call it Quetzalcoatl, the moment you give it a name, you've no longer allowed it to be the way, no longer allowed it to be infinite. You've taken away its ability to be an all creative God, or an all, I forgot the word, but when you're all powerful, you've taken away its power because you put it in a box. Now it must conform to the box, right? So it's kind of like how the philosopher said, and who I quote this dude all the time, and his name just fell out of my head again. But he said that the moment you label me, you negate me, and then I must live up to the labels. So the moment you label a creator, then you've negated the creator. The all, the way, cannot be put into your box. The moment you say that the way, that the creator, is jealous, now you've given it human-like qualities. The moment you say it gets angry, you've given it human-like qualities. How can it be infinite and all good and all present if it exudes qualities that are finite like man? It would take away from its ability to be the all. And from the Kabbalion, the way it reads, it says, under and back of the universe of time, space, and change is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth, that the all is in all, and the all is all, but all is not the all. A more common way you may understand that is people running around saying that since God is in everything and is everything, then I am God. Some people have it to the understanding of knowing that they're not the God, but a God, because they hold the small piece of the substantial reality of God. It was written in John, I believe, the book of John in the Christian Bible, where it says that is it not written that ye are gods? I think that's also in Psalms as well, that ye are gods, meaning small gods. But people have taken that to mean to not understand it in the way that it is understood from the Hermetic point of view, from the Kemetic point of view of you have within you traits of the all. You have the creative ability of the all. You have the ability to recognize and to think and reason and to utilize universal laws. as the all has created and put in place, but you are not the all. If you read a book written by an author, the author themselves put themselves into the characters, but they are not the character. They put themselves into the storyline, but they are not the story. They put themselves into the situation, but that situation may not necessarily be as the situation that occurred for them. They are not the characters, and the character can never claim to be the total and fullness of them. The character is separated from the creator by the fact that it is just in relation to, but it is not the creator itself. But you just hold attributes. And the more you understand the divine paradox of that, the paradox of it is but it is not. Because here's the thing that the all cannot do. Otherwise it would invalidate the fact that it is the all. The all cannot separate a portion of itself from itself. If it did, it can no longer be the all. Now let's think about that for a second. If you cut off your arm is not you anymore. You're incomplete. You're not your complete self. You are your conscious self. The paradox of your conscious self, yes. But your physical form, your physical self is now incomplete. So if the God was separated a piece of itself from itself, then it is no longer completely itself again. It is no longer completely whole, and it is no longer the all. In that same respect of separating itself, now if I separate my arm from my body, my arm doesn't have the consciousness to know that it is me. It is a part of me. It was a part of me. What a part of it was connected to me. But the all is of consciousness, of a state of mind, a state of consciousness. If we went into the law of mentalism, you know, it talks about how that everything is mental. Everything is a mental creation. And everything starts with a mental thought. So the all being a infinite mental creative thing and consciousness, if the consciousness of the all gave itself any piece of itself to any other thing, then that thing would know that it is the creator. The creator can never not know itself. That is the second thing. The creator can never not know itself. So if it gave a piece of itself and cut it off into something else, that something else would still know that it is the creator consciously. Consciously, mentally, it will still know it is the creator. So therefore, it can never separate itself because itself would always know itself. So, and please, questions, comment. We'll try to get those as we go. I like the description of Inus. It just is. Not why or how or what. Right, it just is. Not why, how, or what. And that's all. It just is. So when people try to say that the all have separated itself and created different versions of itself, and that it has multiple portions of itself, we'll do another video later concerning the understanding of a Trinity, because a Trinity is not something that is just germane to the Abrahamic religions, but a Trinity is something that has been around for a much longer time. So the creator cannot be, I'm gonna get there, Reginald, but a creator cannot turn a part of itself off and separate itself. It is always going to be itself. Let's go to another one, which Reginald Williams has allowed us to get there a little bit faster. Why would the creator need people to worship him? Why would the creator, who creates all things, be jealous? You made everything. Why would you be jealous? Human-like qualities. But that is another thing. A creator, an omnipotent creator, and a consciousness that is above all consciousness would not need anything. If it needs something, if it is in requirement of something, then it is no longer completely and whole the all. We are not complete conscious beings because we need love from other people. We need connections with other people. Because we need those connections, there have been studies that have shown that when a baby's physical form, a baby's consciousness, a baby's emotions become severely distressed, when it's ignored more so than it's being spoken negatively towards. Dr. I think it's Emoto or Samoto or something like that. When he did his study with the rice that he spoke love to, it was great. It looked great, looked good. The rice that he spoke negative to, it was kind of nasty. It was looking bad. But the rice that he completely ignored and gave it the feeling of ignoring it, it was disgustingly nasty. A baby will physically die if it is left ignored. So we are not fully arisen in our consciousness, right? Bonjour. We're not fully arisen in our consciousness, and because of that, um, we need things. A creator, a being of full consciousness that needs something, it is not. It is not. It can't be the creator. It can't be a consciousness above all consciousness, because then if it needed something, then that means that something was missing from it. And if something's missing from it, it is not the all. It cannot be the creator. Let's see. Rika said, if the Christian God knew it would be disappointed in humans, why create it? Right. If you're omnipresent, you know what's going to happen. Why create something that you know is going to fail? And then why create a situation where you know you're going to have to torment all these people? And then why create a situation where you know the ones that are going to be with you and the ones that are not? Why create the adversary? Why create all these different things when you know it's going to be, and excuse my way of saying this, it's going to be a big shit show? Literally, life on earth, based on that understanding, means that life on earth is a big shit show, that the universal creation is a huge shit show, because the majority of people will never make it to the goal line, to the finish line. It's kind of like wealth. If 100 people graduated from college and all said that they were going to be wealthy, you know that literally about 1 to 5% will actually become wealthy. Actually, a study like that was done in Harvard based on those who wrote down their goals. And only 3 out of 100 wind up reaching their goals who actually wrote them down. The ones who didn't write them down never achieved it. So why would a creator create a situation where he knew that there was going to be about 98% failure? That makes no sense. That would not be a good creator. That is not creation, right? In my opinion, there is no way to even imagine how and why we were created. There is no wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying I don't know and how. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with saying I don't know. I'll tell you I don't know in a heartbeat. Common sense to have you to ask, if the creator created us, then who created the creator? That's the real question. And who created the creator and who created that creator, and so on and so forth. And that's a true thing. Like, at the end of the day, you have to get to a point of I don't know, because there is always a question after the question, because there is always a continuation. There is always the idea of cause and effect. If one thing caused another thing, then and caused another thing to happen, then what's the causation of that one? And what's the causation of the one before, and the one before, and the one before, and continuously into infinitum. So sometimes you just have to say, I don't know, or I feel, I believe, or this is as much evidence that we have of something. So we're establishing more of what is not compared to what it is. And the thing about it, the law of correspondence tells us that as above, so below. That is why we can say the all is in all, and all is the all. Because whatever occurs above is also below. But that doesn't mean that whatever is above is equal to and the likeness and the same of what is below. It just means that what is above happens to what is below, and what is above can affect what is below. And as well, what is below can affect what is above. But when you get to a level of understanding a creator, then the creator can't be affected by what we are doing. You cannot force, if you can force God to do something, then that would put you above your creator. That would be like, I like using authors, that would be like Romeo stepping outside of his character, of his writing, and grabbing Shakespeare's hand and writing the story himself. It would be like a lucid dream where you rewind the dream and start writing in the dream how you want it to be written. You cannot exude any kind of force onto a creative mind. The only thing you can do is utilize the universal laws that have been put in place in order to manifest the life or things that you desire. But even in doing that, you have to have a deeper understanding of it. One of the problems with people saying that I am God, I am discourse, and those sorts of things, and I can manifest things just through thought and mentally, and everything is all mental, and the secret and all those kinds of books, is that it leaves out all the other universal laws. The law of cause and effect, the law of vibration, the law of rhythm, the law of polarity. You can, and statements like faith without works is dead is very valid, incredibly valid. Because you can have all the faith in the world. That's what the laws of attraction is. They're just faith speak. The I am discourse is faith speak. Yes, it should increase your vibration that you do more. It should increase your thought process, that you change the way you act, you change the way you move, you change the way you breathe, you change the way you eat, you change the way you love somebody, you change all those things. It should create from the thought, the action that causes you to do differently. But when it does not, when it is just faith, when it is just I believe that God's gonna bring me this and God's gonna bring me that, and I'm gonna manifest this and I'm gonna manifest that. When it becomes that, then all you are doing is putting out words that is filled with doubt and filled with inactivity. So your faith without works is dead. But I want to throw you for a loop, even in that understanding. Faith without works is dead. But works without faith is much alive. This is one of these stances of people who are atheists, is that they can make the stand, and it is a very true statement. I can have no faith in a God, but if I do the work of financial responsibility, I will have a healthy financial life more than likely. If I live on 70% of what I make, or 60% of what I make, but do not believe that any God or goddess or entity or deity or whatever is going to assist me in this, that it is purely just understanding financial responsibility, I'm going to be more financially astute and in a better financial position than those who are saying, oh, I'm going to meditate on bringing wealth. You can do that all day. But the person who's doing the work with no faith is going to get results. The person who's, they ain't getting no results. Now, if you can add a mental, spiritual strength to back your work, an emotional response to back your work, then you probably will have a higher probability of success than the person who is just doing work. Some people who are just doing work, you're drifters. You're just doing work. You're just doing work. You don't necessarily have to have faith in an entity, but you need to have a belief and a faith that is kind of like the belief and the faith that people who are in horrible situations in horrible countries, who immigrate to a more industrial country, and they have faith, they have a belief that if I can just get to this country, it's kind of like the story with the woman with the issue of blood. She was like, if I could just get to him, then I'll be healed. If I can just get to America, and I will work, save money, and I'll be able to build a business. My kids will be able to go to college. We'll be able to have a much better life than what we have here in this country. The ones who sit back in their own country, they know it's horrible, they're not doing any work to change it, and they're just taking it, they're just drifting. But the ones who say, you know what, I'm going to save money for 10 years, and after I save 10 years, I'm going to come to America or England or Germany or Australia or some of these South Africa, and I'm going to get there, and I'm going to take advantage of building business and that sort of thing. And once I do that, my kids will be able to do better, I'll be able to do better, we have a better life. And they have a faith, a belief that when they get to this imaginary place called America, that life is going to be better. And the reason why I call America imaginary place, because there's actually no lines, there's no big sign on the ground that says America. It's all the consciousness of agreement that we have, and we create borders and militaries and all that stuff. But that's the whole thing with divine paradox. I'm not really going to go deep into that one. But when you understand that you can have a faith is truly a belief in something that can be. And when it's backed by emotions, it's backed by work and will and definiteness of purpose and an attitude that every setback is merely just that, a temporary setback, then your faith is rewarded because you're putting forth the action and the work. Now, you could come to America, put forth the action and the work. You can say, you know what, I'm an American. I'm here. I know that I'm working, and then somehow, some way, something is going to just open up for me. But I'm just going to work, and all of a sudden, you develop what I call grasshopper mind, and you begin to hop, 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 and hop, because you see an opportunity here and you hop to it. You see an opportunity there and you hop to it. You keep just hopping and hopping. And many people do that when it comes to the creator, an infinite intelligence. They say that, okay, I know that I want to feel something, so I'm going to go to this church. I'm not feeling it there, and then the pastor did this. So I'm going to hop over to this church. I'm not feeling it there, and the deaconess did that. I'm going to hop over to this one. You know, I'm about tired of these. They all seem the same, so I'm going to go over here to this Muslim mosque, and I'm going to hop into that one. And I'm hopping here, and I'm learning Allah, you know, pray 5 times a day. All right, we're getting spiritual, getting down on it. But you know what? The way they treat women, I'm going to hop over to this one. You know, maybe this Muslim mosque incorporated. I'm going to hop over here. Oh, well, I don't, you know, they doing all right, but then I'm going to hop over here to Buddhism. Now, yeah, we meditating a lot and a whole bunch of stuff and, you know, robes and everything, but... And you know, you just keep hopping from deity to deity to understanding, but never truly trying to understand that all these things of what the creative mind cannot be and what is not, and never actually looking where you should be looking, which is inside yourself. You should look for the divinity of the creator inside yourself. The reason why the writers of the Kabbalion, the reason why Hermes Thoth, he, you know, wrote that the all is in all and all is the all, is, and the reason why it is written that ye are gods and it is written that you're connected and having relationship, is really about recognizing you, your inner you, who you are, right? Who you are in relation to universe, to everything. Your universe is your universe. Your life is your life. I can't see what's going on in your life. I can't feel it, but you do. When you recognize who you are, and it is beyond skin. One of the things I hate the most about the so-called, and I say so-called because it's not solidified too toughly, but what I hate about the conscious community is the racism. What I hate about all religions, really, is the racism. When you go to today is Sunday in America. Go to, what did Dr. King say? This is the most racist day, the most segregated day of the week. Black people at black churches, white people at white churches. Supposed to be doing the same one. Then people are like, well, we a mixed church. You got 5 black people or you got 5 white people. That doesn't make you mixed. That just means you got a couple. You got some people who live close enough, or they like a certain pastor. All right. But we have to be able to say, according to the divine paradox, that race does not exist. That my melanin makes me no better than anybody else. If it did, then that means the darkest of black person, who has more melanin in their skin than I do, is closer to the creator than I am. But they could be the most racist, the dumbest, the most ignorant, they could have no intellect whatsoever concerning the universe and creation, and they could be a complete dullard, and yet their melanin is supposed to make them closer to the creator. Doesn't work. Because if you believe that we're all energy doesn't have a color, doesn't have a race. But the divine paradox is that we live here on earth, and on earth, in this understanding, our collective consciousness recognizes race. Now, I find that interesting. You go to India, you find really dark-skinned Indian people. Do you call them black? Is their race black, or is their race Asian? Ask them; they'll tell you that they're Asian. There's an Indian guy who works in the restaurant, 2 restaurants over. He's just as dark as I am. He's Asian, because Indian people consider their race to be Asian. So that in itself should let you know race is a created thing by man that we agree to And as long as we agree to it, then that's what it becomes. So the divine paradox is understanding that you are merely what you decide you are. So the consciousness of thinking my melanin makes a difference is really just people who are pissed off because most of them live in a country of America or some other westernized, colonized country where the oppression came from those of a lighter hue. So because of that, then we have to demonize them and raise ourselves above them, which is just another form of superiority. But if you are supposed to be one with the creator, then the creator cannot have separation of its people, of its creation. Which brings us to another aspect of how in the world can the creator say that these people in Mesopotamia are my people. These people in Egypt are my people. These people in northern England are my people. These people in the Central and Southern America are my people. These people in any place are my people. A creator who chooses a my people cannot be a creator. It goes all the way back to the first thing I said. Each group makes the creator more like themselves. And then they make them like them more so than anybody else. When I do this video, it may be tonight, depending upon what Kevin is doing. When I do this video tonight or tomorrow, it's live, when I talk about what actually happened at the Council of Nicaea, a portion of that video will discuss the fact that in every situation, whoever's doing the writing makes themselves look good. That the creator is this being who, when they lose a battle and they're conquered, well, God allowed that to happen because we was being disobedient. So that's why we were conquered, and we had to go into slavery under the Babylonians, or slavery under the Philistines, and slavery in America, and slavery in Northern Africa, because we were disobedient to God. So that's why we had to go into it. But then when you win the battle, God gave us the power because we were obedient. God, 8 o'clock tonight, Reggie. God gave us the power because we were obedient. Or God, well, 8:30. God gave us the power to defeat our enemies. God gave us because we were worshiping right, we were favoring him right, we were doing it. I'm sure the Puritans felt like when they got over to America and they survived that voyage, this was the right thing to do. God has given us favor. But for those voyages that they don't talk about in history, that they never made it and they all died at sea, what? Did God say that now y'all took the wrong voyage? Was King James right to turn England back to Protestantism since it was able to last and he got away from Catholicism? Was that God saying, yes, that's right? Was it right that the Inquisitions were able to occur throughout Spain, Italy, and over in Spain and Italy mainly, but in other countries in Europe? Was it right that all those people was murdered and killed based on the Inquisitions of trying to shut down women from expressing themselves sexually and expressing themselves through the mystic arts of Christianity? Were they right because they won? Was those who were on Constantine's side, did God support them? The ones who were of the Orthodox, who became the Orthodox, and all the Gnostic ones, which were the majority of Christians at the time, were they wrong? And that's why God killed most of them and destroyed most of their writings? Or was it just man taking themselves, their ideas, their thought processes, and justifying their situations and using a created God in their mind to justify it? Because a creator would not be dilly-dallying in the affairs of his creation like that. Now, if you're the writer and you're controlling everything, sure. But if you gave sentience to all your creation, you would allow that to go however your creation chooses. You do not tempt them with an apple, with a tree. You do not tempt them with a serpent. You do not tempt them with a bet. You don't tempt them with anything. You just allow them to try to figure it out and to live. Because if you're a non-emotional God, you're not controlled by your emotions of jealousy and anger and frustrations and all that kind of stuff. If you don't have regret and say, oh, I regretted making these creations. If you're not walking around saying, if you don't believe in me, then all my people go around and cut off their heads. You can cut off all their heads and super tax them. If they don't follow Allah's will. If your God is that cannot be a creator. That cannot be God. That is you. That is man. That is you. It's just like last week, if you guys had tuned in last week, I talked about how A truly non-emotional, just looking at facts for facts God would see the 3,000 people that died on the rooftop, according to the story, when I was about to say Solomon, but not Solomon. When Samson pulled the two pillars down and the 3,000 people died on the rooftop because they didn't worship the right God, is the same thing as the 3,000 people dying because two pillars came down. I'm not saying it's right in any format. I'm saying it's completely wrong both ways because you're saying that they didn't worship the right God. Either way you look at it, it's wrong. But we consistently will use God as the weapon or use God as the reason why we lost. Why are we lost? Hebrew Israelites are running around, we're in 400 years of slavery because Deuteronomy 23, which if you go to the Codex Sinaiticus, which is written before the King James, which King James is supposed to have used, that was not in there. It wasn't written that way. It was just talking about some children being disobedient. It didn't say anything about 400 years of slavery. Right? But they go around still saying this. Why? Because they feel oppressed. They need to justify the oppression. They have to put God behind them and God stifling them as to the reason and rationale for the oppression. When in truth, it's just man. And the point of that is the better we know ourselves, the better we start recognizing who we are, we can end all these things. We can end them all. We can end all of them. Let me see what some of you guys have said before I go into this part. But remind me to talk about we can end all these things. Teach their kids to thank God when there's food, but the parent, exactly. God didn't put the food on your table. You did. You went to work. There's cause and effect. If we teach our kids cause and effect, which I teach mine, then their lives will be much better because then they actually think about every action and word and deed that they do before they do them because they know there's an effect there that comes after it. And it doesn't matter it doesn't matter what they worship or believe in. My kids don't worship nothing. They don't worship any God. They respect universal law. I don't have any kids, but how do you handle a situation when you're a non-believer, but your parents and family are religious? You send the kids to their house, and they may teach them something different. I don't let anybody teach my kids anything differently than what I want my kids to be taught. Plain and simple. My family knows not to try to teach my kids their beliefs. That's just what it is. If they try to force to teach my kids their beliefs, I don't tell them they can't say their praise gods and they can't pray. It's their house. They can do all that stuff they want to. But don't try to force my kids to be a part of it. And don't try to force my kids to think that they are wrong if they don't believe in it. If they do, my kids just won't go to your house. Family to me are people who really respect me. Blood ain't got nothing to do with it. I can care less about blood. Yep, most people don't practice what they preach even in the conscious community. If supposedly he created us to experience life through us, then that wouldn't... Alright, okay, so if a creator had to create us to experience life through us, you're not omnipresent. How can you be the creator if you need to experience something? You should be, the creator would know that experience without ever having to, if that would mean something outside, there's a force outside the creator that forces it to do something. So it can't be. It still wouldn't be a creator because it needs to experience something. That's the idea that it had to, like the idea of sacrificing yourself for your people or for a situation that God sacrificed, that is not new. Jesus wasn't the first one. That's an older story of being sacrificed. So Odin sacrificed an eye, was tied to a tree and sacrificed an eye for wisdom. Why you gotta sacrifice your eye? For wisdom. But if I look at it as an allegory, he sacrificed the one eye so that he only had one eye, a single eye. Let your single eye be clear. It's a way of looking at it. It's all about power and control. Yep. I love death because it always reminds us that we are not that special. We are all the same, whatever they may think they are, Jews, Christians, Muslims. Death will always remind us that we are one. And we are one. And here's the thing. This is how we fix the world. This is how we fix the world. It's coming to this understanding of the all in all, that The Tao teaches the same thing, that the moment you give it a name, you've taken it away. That all cannot be. It's no longer the way. It's no longer God as soon as you give it a name. The divine paradox is that there is no such thing as race unless we create it ourselves, right? So if we recognize that we all have access to infinite source information, infinite source energy, we all have access to the wisdom of the universe. We all just don't use it. We all have access to be able to create our lives in our world, our universe, devoid of anger, frustration, fear, jealousy, all these things. If you've ever been in a plane and you've flown from one state to another state or one country to another country, you never crossed a line. You never looked down and saw a line. The idea of state and nationhood is something that's created by man, something we create. The idea of race is something that we create. The idea of one gender is superior to the other gender is something that we created. The idea of any of those things that separate us is something that we created. Religion is something that man created. The different attributes of God is something that man created. The fact that there is the idea of a God, a regional God, is something that man created. Now, the fact that there is cause and effect, that there is that as the universe is above, the universe is below. There is a universe, it's like Marvel. There's the big universe out there with Thanos, then there's the microverse with Ant-Man. and it's all looking the same. If you saw when Ant-Man went into the microverse, if you noticed, it all looked the same. If there's a video where it goes out into the universe and see the big nebulas, then it goes into the eye of a person, and it all looks the same. It's about a 10-minute video. It all is the same. As above, so below. That everything vibrates. Everything is moving. So when we recognize that we are all creators of our own universe, and we all want to, there's some things that we all want. We all want love. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate you too. On YouTube, a gentleman donated. Let me see. I'm so bad at saying names, but Damien, the man, popular, the man. I appreciate that. But if we recognize that we're all just energy, and we're all creating our own universe, we all need love. We all want love. We desire love. We all desire peace. We all desire to have our basic necessities met: food, water, clothing, those sorts of things. To be able to enjoy our lives, enjoy our day. We all desire to be safe. We all desire to be safe. The Lao Tzu. Oh, thank you, Ali. Thank you, I appreciate that. Lao Tzu talked about how he became a walker of the way. He became Taoist, even though he wasn't calling it that at the time. But he became a man of the way because he no longer needed Buddhism. When you no longer, a person who needs law in order to be moral is an immoral person. If you need law to tell you not to rape, you're an immoral person. On the chat, there should be a $ called a super chat, Reginald, is how that works. But if you need to be told, if you need rules and regulations and punishments for you not to steal, you're an immoral person. Now, I understand people are going to say that there are certain situations where people are starving and they just need to get stuff. If we withhold food and water from people based on race, color, nationality, education, we withhold opportunities based on these man-made things, you're an immoral person. And if your immoral act of withholding a person's ability to earn food, water, and clothing, if you're a leader of a nation and you are implementing laws that's hampering a person's ability to do that, you are the immoral person who's the causational force that's creating the effect of a person making the decision to be immoral themselves. When we judge somebody's decisions, somebody's actions, and we say that they were wrong, first, what were the options that they had? I saw that on a quote yesterday on Facebook. What was the options that they had? Before you judge them, what options did they have first? Know their options. If I'm gonna be honest with you, there was a time. There was a time. I was married to my children's mother at the time. Back in late 1990s, late 1990s, before I became an IT guy. And I had $27, 3 kids, wife. No. Well, I had 3 kids because she was pregnant. 3 kids, $27. Light bill was due, water bill due, mortgage due. We had no food. I literally watched this guy and saw his pattern. And I was going to rob him. I was going to rob this guy's convenience store. I honestly was. The only thing that stopped me wasn't some kind of God thing. The thing that stopped me is I thought, my son is going to be born with a father in jail. And I asked myself, what other options do I have? And when I asked myself what other options that I had, and I sat down and started writing down the most ridiculous to the most pedestrian of standing on the street begging, I looked at all my options. And through looking at all my options, I made a different choice than robbing this guy who hadn't done anything to me, hasn't created a situation where I needed to rob him. He was stupid in the way that he was leaving his store at night in the back of the store where he parked his car in the dark with no cameras. That was dumb. But I made a choice. Now, some people don't have options, or they have very few options, or they don't think about their options. But we live in a society, in a world where we have the ability to create everything. We can end hunger on the planet very simply. America, thank you, Reginald. America throws away enough food to feed the world. We could end hunger. We could end homelessness, but some people who are homeless will refuse you. They will refuse you. They will refuse the process to not be homeless anymore. They're comfortable in their misery. We could end all these different things if we just stripped away the control of emotion over us. That is what understanding the all in all is that the all doesn't do things based on emotions, race, nationalities. It doesn't do anything. The universal laws were set up for you to utilize how you see fit. The Creator allows you to be whatever, create whatever, but we don't use it, or we use it as power plays. And that's where we can change the world, is that if we had leadership in every facet of leadership, from the home to the school to the politician to the world politician, the business leader, we wouldn't even need a military if that type of leadership just understood that we are all the same. We are all one. And where you grew up, how you grew up, doesn't separate you, nor it doesn't make you better, it doesn't make you less. If we could come into that understanding of when, what's his name? He passed away some years ago. Wayne Dyer, as well as Einstein, and many other people say, I just want to learn how to think like God thinks. It's the ability to think without having to be overran by your emotions or what labels people have put on you. That is understanding yourself and understanding God, or what God should be. Is this non-emotional creature that just does as you should. Just do what's good and what's natural. The lion doesn't overhunt. The eagle doesn't overhunt. Man seems to want to overhunt. Man destroys. What they say in the Matrix, that man is a virus on the planet. It goes around consuming and destroying every environment until there's nothing else left. That's what we are. That's what we do. But we can open our minds up. Brick. I like saying brick. Say it's crazy. I was watching a documentary and the guy got brain trauma from a car wreck and started speaking Spanish and forgot English, but never learned it before. We are really one. We are. Hi, Riri. Here's something that was funny. What's his name? Tony Robbins tells the story. I don't know where Tony Robbins get this story from, but he tells this story. of, and thank you, Reginald, I appreciate that. Tony Robbins tells this story of how a guy, I don't know if it's a true story or not, but it really, that this guy, he was in some kind of accident and um, he developed amnesia. Now, from when he developed the amnesia, his family kept coming in, and the people started telling him that you were a Navy SEAL, that you were this kind of a HUD. They start telling him all these things, but let's focus on the Navy SEAL part. But they were telling him he was a Navy SEAL, he was in great shape, that he was doing missions, he was a sharpshooter, expert with his weapons, and all this kind of stuff. They told him this so much so that that's what he believed his life that he was. So when he was able to get out of the bed, he trained, because he was always overweight. He trained like a Navy SEAL. His mentality was that Navy SEAL, never give up, go through the pain mentality. He got onto the range and was an expert, and they reminded him of how to shoot. He just knew that he knew how to do it and that he was an expert, and he just shot expertly. He did all these things because he was convinced that that's what he was in his mind. That's how we are. We're convinced of something, of what's in our mind. You're absolutely right. If my brain was wiped away and you told me that, I was a Frenchman, I would see what French people do and I'd be French. If you told me I was Chinese, I would see what Chinese people do and I'd be Chinese. Because that's what you just put into me. That's what you said I am. That's how babies come into this world. Babies come into this world blank. But then parents, but then preachers and ministers and imams and priests, but then teachers, and then government and news and television and cartoons and all these things starts putting stuff into these children's mind, putting these things into these kids' mind. And then it's kind of like, I forgot what country it is in Africa. Since I can't remember the country in Africa, I use what I do know. I do remember. In most of your Arab nations, and this may throw some of you guys off for a second, but in most of your Arab nations, you grow up, this part, the nape of the neck right there, and a lot of your Arab nations, especially, I noticed this was told to us when we was in Bahrain and not Dubai, but Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and Oman and Yemen. We were told that this nape of the neck is considered sensual. It's a sensual spot. Sexy. That the breast is no big deal. Who cares? They're used to feed children. But the nape of the neck, that right there, that little, when a woman has the bone, the collarbone that stick up and it's real deep, that's super sexy right there, right? That's what we was told in our debriefing before we entered these countries. So when you see the woman, you'll see them wrap that around, and they was telling us this, that if you see a woman and it's not wrapped, don't stare at the nape of her neck because she'll be insulted, right? Kids grow up in those countries being told that, learning that. But in America, that ain't nothing. There are countries where you grow up and a woman's breast is just for feeding children. So if a woman's walking around and her chest is out, it's not seen as a sexual thing. That's only in like Western cultures that's seen as a sexual thing. So if you grew up thinking it's no big deal, it's not a big deal. When I was, when I lived in Germany, it's no big deal to see a 12-year-old come in and pick up a bottle of wine because they know the 12-year-old's taking it home. It's for dinner for his family. Alcohol abuse is not how alcohol abuse is in America. It's not viewed the same. So when it's not viewed the same, and the people grow up with a different view, the people respond with a different view. If we can change the way we see the world and see things, we grow up with a different view. I wasn't going to go here on this one. Wait a minute, let me read some things first before I go there. Reminds me of Ivy's mentor, Interiors, how she described how the baby grows, likened to a blank piece of canvas, exactly like a sculpture, and you mold it. The Taurus rules the neck, and we're taught that Taurus is very sensual. Okay, dang, she got that that thick collarbone. Let me get her number. The breasts are ruled by Cancer in the water. They are very sensitive as well. Very sensitive signs. I caught that part too. Joker said, "You get that number." Oh man, y'all crazy. I wasn't gonna go here in this video, but this is just a prime example. So, how you doing, Howard? How you doing, man? I grew up in the South, in Georgia, in Atlanta. you grow up with Confederate Avenue, Robert E. Lee Road this and Jackson that, you know. You grow up with Stone Mountain with its depictions of, you know, the Confederacy and all this sort of thing. You grow up here in the South and in America in general, where the losers are honored. And I'm gonna come back to that. When I moved to Germany, I was going to Germany with the mindset of the losers have been honored. So there is a large portion of people who honor the loser and what the loser stood for, which was enslavement of the black people, lower class and subjugation of black people. So I'm getting ready to go to Germany where they had the Nazis. And the Nazis represented that the Aryan race was superior, that all of the men were mongrels and they death chambers and that sort of thing. Thank you, Riri. I appreciate that. Um, uh, oh, Mrs. Hill and her song "Sweet Thing." Okay. Or "Kiss Her on the Collarbone." That's right. So I get to Germany, and Germany is. I'm getting there, and Germany. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be subject to so much racism when I get to Germany. It's going to be so much more than I've ever experienced growing up in the South, right? Because theirs is fresh. You know, Civil War was 1860s. Nazis, 1940s. Fresh. The generation of those people are still alive. Oh my goodness, because this was in the mid 90s. Oh my God, I'm about to experience this. It's going to be horrible. So I got to be mindful, got to be watchful. I'm ready though. Because I've heard other great things about living in Germany. So I get to Germany. A couple months go by, no racism. A couple more months go, no racism. Get down this small little village in Stuttgart called Garmisch-Partenkirchen. Love this little town, man. If y'all ever go there, go to the Patton Hotel. It's a brother there makes this breakfast. And it's this other restaurant, this Cordon Bleu. It's amazing. You should drive all the way down there just to eat. But this, my wife at the time had braids, and this little white lady was pulling on her hair, and then she didn't know much English. She was just like, "Oh, beautiful, beautiful," because they got the word large nutcracker, so I was watching that. She was like, "It's beautiful, beautiful." She was just admiring her hair. I was in Germany for a year before I was followed in a store. And when I felt like, why is this person following me in this store? The person came up. My friends who was with us had a 3-year-old. We were in a crystal shop. They were like, watch the baby. We're in a crystal shop. He wasn't following us. Some Germans laughed at me when I was driving down the highway. And they were laughing because my car was overheating and they were teenagers. And they was laughing because they're teenagers and they're stupid because they're teenagers. It wasn't until I came back to America, I forgot what racism was like. I was in Germany for 3.5 years and I got back to America. As soon as I got into Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, I'm walking, I got my daughter in a backpack on my back. I'm carrying some luggage. This white lady clutches her purse, looks at me and scurries over to the right. I'll never forget that. Because I walked up to her and I said, "What am I going to do to you, lady?" I was so frustrated and irritated by that. Because I had forgotten what it felt like to be vilified for my skin tone and not my character. Now, if she had saw me slapping the hell snot out of somebody and then that caused her to fear me, sure. But I forgot. And I started to realize the reason why the Germans are not racist in that same way that it is here in America. I'm not saying that there are no racist Germans over there. Of course there are. But the reason why it's not systematic, it's not ingrained in the generation of, because I was in my 20s, it wasn't ingrained in the 20-year-olds, it wasn't ingrained in the 30-year-olds, is because they grew up in a society where racism was viewed as horrible. They grew up in a society where Hitler was viewed as horrible. The only place you will find any statues or artifacts is in museums, where they should be. In a museum to study and to understand this is a horrible episode in the history of Germany. That's what the teaching for the overwhelming majority of people in Germany. Their history books read that this was one of the worst situations that Germans have ever put themselves in and been in. That the ideas were wrong and corrupt and all these negative things. So the kids grow up understanding that it is wrong, that those people were wrong. But in America, the Confederacy are deemed heroes. They're deemed fighting for their state rights. Their state right to own people and subjugate them. Heroes were people who established and upheld Jim Crow laws and segregation. Those who upheld rulings and allowed for Medgar Evans and Emmett Till. That these people who upheld those, these judges, some of these judges are still in place or just got out of place. Some of these politicians, they raise, these people have raised their children to believe that. So America will continue to be that way because we continue to glorify those who had a mentality, a behavior that is destructive to humanity. That is not God-centric, and they all claim to be doing God's work. That's the biggest portion of the hypocrisy. They claim to be doing what God has instructed them to do. This is why they don't understand who they are, because they can't, and because they don't understand who they can't understand who God really is, a creative mind really is. Even if you're an atheist, you still have to recognize that there are universal laws that govern everything, and these laws do not pick out this race over the other race. Palby says that I'm a black man born and raised in France. I never deal with discrimination back home until I came to the U.S. Man, I'm telling you, I was told that French people were so rude and French people was this and that. I took French in high school. I tried to use as much French as I possibly could. The only French people who were mean to me were the ones who got tired of me struggling trying to pronounce it, or because they were like, oh, speak English, you're butchering my language. But I had a great time in France. Didn't have any problem with it. You've never been interested in Germany before, but Germany is, you'll find a whole new world. It takes a very slick, psychotic mind to want to own another person. But but when you're taught a superiority, that your group is superior simply because you're more scientifically advanced. But scientific advancement doesn't always mean better. It doesn't always mean better. Look at, Europe was more scientifically advanced than Africa. But look at the pollution and disease that ran rampant. They were more polluted. They were more scientifically advanced than the Aztecs and the Mayans, but when they showed up over here, they gave them so many diseases. And it's not to say that white people just carry disease, just sometimes advancement, civilizations, growth, close quarter, high population develop into that type of situation. And advancements can create that. People in the country are usually more healthier than people out in the cities. I'm glad you pointed that out, because you have so many YouTube conscious personality that says that racism doesn't exist. Racism exists completely. But it only exists because we create it. And we consistently teach it and make it systemic. But if we understood the trueness of a creator, then we would not create racism, because we would recognize that race does not exist, that how we treat each other and how we are with each other is the only thing that matters. That everybody is just trying to have love, have happiness, have food, clothing, shelter, and just enjoy themselves and make it, and just trying to have fun. I stay in Savannah, Georgia, where they try to claim the Confederate flag is their heritage, and I asked them, what's wrong with American flag being your heritage? Exactly. That's the mentality. I'm gonna start traveling. I need these experiences for my mentality. I'll tell you this: you start traveling, and not only travel, you start living. Go somewhere and spend a month in another country and really get involved with the country. And you will not only start doing that, you will start wanting to not come back. I'm here in America because my kids are. But even that, y'all know I'm looking to go to Botswana. I can't do this place. Those who talk like that, first, I wonder if they are saying such based on some etymology principle. If not, see, listen to them. Yeah, and I don't listen to them either. Like you said, England is another story. Yeah, England I did experience a bunch of racism when I was in England. Um, when I did go up there, which is one of the reasons why I didn't go to England that much. I mean, I have an uncle who lived in Banbury, and I mean, Banbury is cool. The way he tell it, he doesn't experience racism there. But when I kept going to London, some of them Londoners, whew, they were just as bad as Americans, just as bad as Americans. Um, when I went to Israel, you know who treated me the best in Israel? The Muslims. The Muslims and the Palestinians treated me better than anybody else while I was in Israel. Better than anybody. I will say that every time I went to the Muslim countries, Dubai, Bahrain, Qatar, Yemen, Oman, I didn't get treated poorly. But Israel, a lot of the Israelis treated black people poorly. Um, yep, Spain was cool. Didn't have any problem with Spain, but Spanish people know they got some black in them. They know the Moors was there for 700 years. And the Italians, I didn't have any problems with. Let me tell you the problem I had with Italians is um, they always trying to take your wife. That's the problem I have with Italians. They're loving them some black women. They try to take your wife. That was always funny to me, being there. Where the German men would try to do that too. German men love them some black American women. Boy, they try to take your wife too. Um, you can't let your wife get too far ahead of you. Otherwise, some German dude would be like, "Beautiful Africa, I come take care of you." I would tell you that happened a whole bunch of times. And I ain't gonna lie, I used it a couple times. Like, hey, my kid's mother name is Kim. I was like, hey Kim, you go in there and see if you can get this deal. I'm gonna stay out here, cause you get a deal. Yep. Um, but I really appreciate this. Look at seeing on YouTube. I mean Facebook, Miss Liana Clark. Yes, you are very late, and you'll have to catch the replay. Matter of fact, Rika on YouTube and Liana Clark, both of y'all are in England. So I like that. It's kind of cool to me. Two people, two different programs, both y'all in the same country. So it's pretty cool, in my opinion. Um, but we really should get out. And I think traveling the world and seeing the world and doing things outside of your own country and seeing how other people live and act will help us to understand better that we're all just one people, that we're all just, energetic beings that have a consciousness. And if we focus on developing that consciousness to, as Wayne Dyer said, think like God thinks, which is meaning Leanna, got it, Leanna. That if we can think like God thinks, which means that we don't think in borders of nationality, we don't think in race, we don't think in gender, we don't think in, education and job relation. Like, I met a woman a couple years ago, and I was like, "Tell me about yourself." And she's like, "Well, I'm a nurse." And I like, "I didn't ask you about your dang on job. I asked you about who you are. Who's your character? I don't care less about your job. It ain't mean nothing to me." But we gotta, if we can think like that, you see and it works both ways. It can't just be you're thinking about giving and everybody's receiving. It's like you're giving and receiving. It's like in the Buddhist tradition, the true understanding of heaven, so to speak, nirvana, is the breathing in, but also the release of the breathing out, the nirvana. So it's the taking in and the releasing the to people. The taking of opportunities, but creating opportunities for people. And doing it regardless of who the people are. No, I'm the least nepotism person in the world, except even when it comes to my children. I just told my son yesterday, if you don't show me that you can earn, you will not inherit whatever the heck it is I continuously did off, right? The ebb and flow. So I'm gonna get here to end this, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. It was 1 hour and 10 minutes. I normally want to keep this to an hour. Now, I will say this: if you are on YouTube, because it won't be on, more than likely, it won't be on my Facebook page. It may be on my Facebook page, but it'll be on mine, which is Coach Ren's Facebook page. But I'm going to do a. I got to check and see if Kevin. If you guys know Kevin Wesley, I'm going to check if he's doing his show tonight. If he's doing his show tonight, I won't do it tonight. I'll do it a different night. But if he's not doing his tonight, then tonight I'm going to do a live, and it's going to be, the base is going to be what really happened at the Council of Nicaea, the truth, the reasons and rationales, the things that came out of it, the real things, not the lies and made up things to support the religion of Christianity, but not the lies and the mythos of the anti-Christian people either. But somewhere in the middle is some form of truth, and that's what we're going to discuss in that part right there. And we'll go a little bit into some of the philosophical aspects of it, like I was saying earlier in this video, about how Domitian, I keep saying his name because there's a Domitian and a Dolithian, how they just wanted to keep the empire solid and felt that Christians weren't respecting the regional gods. You can have your Christian God, but respect the regional gods. And that's why the crops didn't grow. So then he tried to stamp out Christianity, but he tried to stamp out the literature, which is why there was so many, it was hard to do because there was so many different literatures at the time. And then that brings it up to Constantine saying, let's bring all these literatures and get a one mind, one idea of this. So we're going to discuss that later on tonight. So we'll go into, and we'll talk about how that still affects us today and how people are still affected by not realizing the reason why something happened, the cause and effect of it all, so that we can have a truer understanding of what it is that we're reading and doing and why we live the way we live. All right, so we're going to talk about that tonight if Kevin is not doing his show. If Kevin is doing his, I'm probably going to be on with Kevin. Okay? It's not tell me about yourself, it's what do you see in you. I can understand that. But when I first meet somebody, I want to know. I want to know what you think about you. Because what you think about you is kind of important. Oh, you know what? Messenger, Messenger. Okay, y'all, listen. Here's the deal. Messenger 2102. I need everybody on YouTube to jump on this bandwagon with me. Messenger 2102 has some really good thoughts, really good analysis of things, and she needs to make videos. Okay, and me telling her has not created her to do it yet, but she needs to make videos. When will I know if I'm doing it with Kevin? I'm gonna know. I don't know. I gotta call him. I'm gonna call him I gotta open my store at 12:30. I have a 12 o'clock coaching session to do though, and after that I'm gonna call Kevin and find out if he's doing his. So I'll know, and I'll announce it on my Facebook pages if I'm doing the show or if I'm doing it, or if I'm gonna be with Kevin, and we're gonna talk about that. But what Messenger 2102 just said, we're going to talk about that on a relationship video as well. We're going to do that one where it's even more important to understand how a person, when you're looking at someone you're dating, I might add this. I'm writing a book, How to Find Your Divine Soulmate. I'm going to add this to my book. So thank you. I'm adding it to the book. It's very vital that you know how a person thinks about themselves. That's more important than how you think about them. Because how they think about themselves is how they're going to react and respond and act and move in your relationship. So it's incredibly important to know what they think about themselves. I like that. I'm going to do that. All right. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody who donated on the YouTube Live. I'm so humbled by that because, that's cool to me. That's like, wow. Value, even more value than I know the value of you giving me your time. Your time is incredibly important. So, that's because I know how important time is. And right now my time is I got 10 minutes to get ready for my coaching session, and I got to pull out some stuff because this is for my financial alchemy program. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, and we'll be back here next week at 10:30 as usual, talking about something else. And this week I'll try to put out something in advance to let you know what the subject matter is going to be. I had a subject matter yesterday, but then I changed it this morning to what we're talking about now. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Bye.